and I think so many people are so slaves to the computer and the grid, and they're writing music in that way, and music doesn't work that way. Mozart doesn't work like that. Robert Johnson doesn't work like that. Albert King doesn't work like that. Led Zeppelin doesn't work like that. It's the heartbeat, it's breath, it's human expression. So you can't snap it to the grid and the computer and expect it to feel good, in my opinion. We love those weird guys.
Yeah. I have nothing else but riffs and plans for shows. I don't do anything else.
I always like to also joke that helmet fans are definitely smarter than Metallica fans. I'm sorry.
That's amazing. I just met Lars actually here in San Francisco. He was doing like a whiskey bottle signing down the block from my house at Costco. So I was like, I'm going to get out of bed and go meet Lars Ulrich and the distiller guy, Rob Dietrich, who's awesome.
Lars is really nice, right?
He's so nice. The 2 times I met him, he was golden, bro.
Yeah,
he was so nice.
I thought so too. I got to hang out with him one night when we were out with Guns N' Roses, and he was Axl was showering or doing whatever he does, and we were in Sebastian Bach's dressing room. There was a big party going on, and so Lars, I was just laughing at Lars bashing Sebastian. And Baz was good for it. He was making fun of him. So I was like, I got so fat I could only wear sweatpants and whatever, And it was priceless. And we were cracking up. So we all went. So myself, Lars, Baz, we just said, okay, let's go see Axl. So we walked out of the dressing room, green room, whatever you fucking call it. And there were like 30 people behind us. And we walked straight to Axl's room. It was like down the hall. It's in that Oakland, that big thing in Oakland, the big whatever Coliseum, I guess where the Warriors used to play, and or maybe still play, I don't even know. And down the hall, we take a right, we walk in, the guy with the CIA guy with the earpiece and the black suit in front of Axl's dressing room looks at us, he sees the 3 of us and then the entourage, and he goes, and we're like, okay, so we turn around and we walk back to the dressing room, and that gave us moments of comedy. It's like Lars getting out rock starred by fucking Axl. It was so funny, but he's a really good dude, man.
He is
really like. I hate when people bash him, and they want to say, but who gives a fuck at the end of the day? Because
you know who doesn't give a fuck? That guy. He doesn't care what anyone thinks about him. He's super happy, and I will say
none
also,
of us should.
I'm lucky to have seen him around town just casually supporting his son's bands. His 2 sons have a band,
cool,
and they're killer. I hope this is a story I can share. Anyway.
Of course. I'm not going to tell deep, dark secrets.
I don't know. How do I know? I don't know. Yeah. I only know the Page Hamilton that sits at the end of the stage after a long show and hangs out with everybody and hangs.
Yeah, not anymore. I'm old and I got COVID, and that was brutal. So I've kind of been forced to stop doing that. But the notion that any of us should give a fuck to get to the new album, Jackie was like, you've never held back. You've always been outspoken or whatever. And I said, that's true. But she said, but this album's particularly, cutting. And I'm like, well, look what we've been through in this country since 2015, since Donald Trump walked down the fucking escalator at his shit show tower or whatever, and tried to turn our country into a fucking dictatorship, and is still trying to do so. And so that's completely, it wasn't a conscious choice to write these songs. I wasn't sitting down and going, I'm going to write a political album. But I'm 63 years old, so I got another, with all the, drugs and booze and travel I've, put on my body, maybe I can make it to 70. I hope I can. And you realize the importance of addressing things. And a couple of people have said, you're so brave. And I'm like, why? Like, I'm expressing my opinion. I pay taxes and I vote, and I voted since 1978 when I turned 18. I voted for John Anderson versus Ronald Reagan. I guess it was 1980, but I voted before that when I turned 18. I pay taxes since I'm gonna. If I don't remember exactly, but my father, I wanted a bicycle, and he said, "Well, we got to get you a job." So the bike was $20, and he wouldn't give me $20. But of course, in 1970, 71, whatever, that was some money. He showed me how to do my taxes, so I started paying taxes. W-2s, W-4s, whatever the fuck they're called, 1099s. He showed me how to do my taxes when I was 11 or something. So I have a right to express myself, just as anyone that thinks they can scream louder than I can on the right I can express myself. So a lot of these songs, they just kind of started pouring out of me because, and in a way, this album wasn't meant to be done, over the last 7 years. It was meant to be done now, and this was the time. And I felt like I was in such a good writing flow. With I started doing lessons, and I have guitar students, theory students, composition students, songwriting students. I work with the School of Rock. I have a couple of songwriting classes. Just had the School of Rock kids in St. Louis to the sound check and show. It was fantastic. And so once I sat down to write, I was in this great flow because I'd been teaching people how to write and how to practice and how to expand your musical vocabulary and not worry about any noise around you. This is your job. Your job is to fucking sit down and focus on these 12 notes in Western music. It's still melody, harmony, rhythm, form, the structure of the song, and text, words. That's if I'm writing an aria, Mozart for Magic Flute, or I'm writing, Highway to Hell. It's still the same five musical elements. It's not that complex. So how do you do something unique and different? Well, this forced me, to kind of think, because I have students everywhere, like, from, Melbourne to Boise to Seattle to Portland to Chicago to Philly, a lot of Philly, Pennsylvania area guys, Toulouse, South France, Germany, and so I tried to come up with, and everybody has different musical needs, right? Like not everybody, like I can play Stairway to Heaven and Highway to Hell or whatever. And so you're like, okay, cool. Let's analyze those songs and let's figure out what it is that makes those songs great. And here's how you can do your own thing. And so when it came time to write, I just sat down and it just came out. I just finished an orchestra piece for a 52-piece orchestra in Memphis, Tennessee. My friend Patrick Bolton, I met as a Helmet fan, doing my after show chill, and he had the worst broken nose I'd ever seen from a Helmet pit, and got progressively better over the years. I'm like, your nose looks a lot better, dude. And he's a band director, and so he said, can you write this piece? It's the oldest high school orchestra in the country. And so the day I delivered that, I started the Helmet record basically. And the song, I think, kind of looking at the lyrics right now, or the folder full of lyrics, I can't even remember the first song I wrote on the album. It's probably Makeup, I think, or Big Shot. The last song I wrote was Bombastic for sure, and Holiday. So those were the first couple, and that came out. But yeah, song by song. I mean, we could talk about the music and the words. It'd be fun, I think, right?
Absolutely.
Holiday.
Before we jump in, I did want to ask two quick
Yeah,
questions, and then I'll lead the track by track. I'll give you the song titles, and you can just free flow whatever you feel like sharing. We'd love to hear. But I also wanted to. To me, I had a writing teacher that told me everything is political, whether you acknowledge it or not, subtly or not. So I always felt Helmet came to
right.
me at a time when I was a young adult and a late teen in the New York City, the thriving New York City underground scene, a little bit of hardcore, a little bit of metal, a little bit of avant-garde. I
Yeah,
remember seeing White Zombie at the Continental when they sounded like the Cramps, and I remember seeing Prong when they almost sounded like a brutal slam band, and then they kind of turned into a thrash band from a
yeah,
hardcore
yeah,
band. And
yeah,
Helmet
yeah,
also transformed from before Strap It On to like when
yeah,
I saw you guys at Wetlands for Strap It On, which changed my life, to like
yeah.
now. So
Cool,
like I
cool.
feel like I'm not surprised by the political direction. You've always been, again, like, yeah, very outspoken, even if it was subtle or obtuse or poetic and it wasn't direct. But
Right.
like this album's killer. I think it's the direction a lot of people are just find themselves going the last few years, as you
Yeah.
can't keep it in anymore, and you can't sit silent. But what a killer record! But I did want to. Praise, like, I love the fact that you have like the same band for like the last 13 years.
Yeah, it's been
That's
great. Yeah.
unusual in
Yeah.
not just Helmet history, but it's hard to keep a band together, right? And you've managed to.
Tell me about it. Yeah. It's really, it's tough, and I love, regardless of what happens in the next 10 years, I love all three guys, and and I feel like the album benefited from, even though, I'm writing the music. Kyle, he like was incredible, and for the first time ever, I have the songs by Hamilton Stevenson, and because I know that I'm gonna use a drum machine at home. I play everything by hand and on a keyboard over here. I have a drum stand. I have the John Tempesta Metal Machine drum DVD, which is incredible. By the way, he's one of my best friends on planet Earth, and he hooked me up with that. And it's like I have a lot of the film music I do, or my solo album that I'm working on. I can have straight up Tempesta grooves. I mean, and I can, massage them and make them work for what I'm doing, whatever. But so I have that, but I'm not going to come up with a 5/4 drum groove. I worked for 5 days just on trying to get a 5/4 drum groove that didn't suck. And then when I took it to Kyle, because for makeup, and I said, dude, okay, it's a Tom thing, but I want it 5, but it's not going to be, I don't want Lazy Afternoon, and I don't want, Take 5, the Brubeck, the Paul Desmond, the song Brubeck, love them, but it's, and it's, 1, 2, it's Glenn Branca kind of inspired 5. And yeah, so he just slayed it. But I feel like, Dave, like on bass, I love, he's got a fill in, I can't even remember what song it is right now. It's the simplest thing. It's Holiday. It's in Holiday, in the second pre-chorus, which is the beginning of the song. The intro is a re-intro in a new key, right? I changed the key, and he just did the simplest thing, but it works beautifully with the vocal, and it brings so much to the music. And that kind of stuff, having a band that gets you and gets Helmet, is so important. Is so important because I can't tell you how many people over the years, how many mediocre musicians don't understand how the depth of the musicality in our music. Like I had T.M. Stevens, the great bassist who sang "Living in America" with James Brown. James Brown's last bassist. Miles, "Pretenders Learning to Crawl." Yeah, he I've told this story a million times, but he came on the tour bus. He's like, man, it's like Helmet. It's like a big bowl of ice cream, and you dig in, and there's spinach inside. It's like, wait, that was a measure of 5, and you didn't even know it because it flowed seamlessly, because that's the way music works, if you let it work. And so I love that. Or Danny Korchmar or Steve Jordan, these musicians I grew up like idolizing on, reading on the backs of album covers, and so it's funny that like it's supposed to sound effortless. It's supposed to sound like feel like this, like AC/DC does. And then you dig into AC/DC. One example I've been using for lessons for polyrhythms is Malcolm's breakdown in Bad Boy Boogie on, I think it's on If You Want Blood. It's just Angus and Malcolm's like hitting all these time signatures, and it's just groove. He's not thinking 5 against 4 or 3 against 4 or whatever, but he's playing it. It's fucking, because it's natural, and that's a natural thing, and I think so many people are so slaves to the computer and the grid, and they're writing music in that way, and music doesn't work that way. Mozart doesn't work like that. Robert Johnson doesn't work like that. Albert King doesn't work like that. Led Zeppelin doesn't work like that. It's a human, it's the heartbeat, it's breath, it's human expression. So you can't snap it to the grid and the computer and expect it to feel good, in my opinion.
Nice. I tell every metalhead to go listen to Dave Brubeck. I was lucky enough to see him as a kid at Lehman College in the Bronx, in my hometown there.
Cool. I saw him too with my mom.
Yep, my mom. Yep, my mom took me. I got to see all the. I didn't know what I was hearing like when I saw Miles as a little boy. But like, yeah, I'm glad I did. I feel lucky.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I feel very lucky. But yeah, man, like, what an evolution for the history of the band, and it's still you, like at heart, it's still it's still riffs, it's still your voice, regardless of what voice you use. So I love that, like, you put on the record, it's a Helmet record, like it.
Yeah, for sure. It's you can't say it's I like that my favorite moniker is that they've come up with this post-hardcore. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, we're post-hardcore. Like there was industrial metal. First it was indie rock, and then it was, if you even look on, I think, iTunes or something, it'll tell what it is. It's like it was indie rock or something, college rock, and then it was metal, and then it was post-industrial, hard, whatever, and you're just like, okay, whatever. It's music, it's music, and it sounds like us. So that's I think that's the thing I try to encourage with young kids. That's why I'm trying to teach them the vocabulary. Learn, work on scales, arpeggios, and chord voicings. It's not, that's music, and that's how you don't recite the Gettysburg Address without knowing verb, noun, pronoun. You need to learn the words, learn the fucking language, and then you can do something with it. And there are different schools of thought on that. Some people think they just want to cop licks and riffs and learn other people's songs and then develop their own sound that way, which is absolutely valid if you can escape those influences. And meaning the influences are there. I mean, there are influences all over the place on this album as far as lyrics. I surround myself with books of poetry and novels. I mean, I love Cormac McCarthy and Tom Wolfe. There's a line I got in Dislocated, I think it is. He says in Bonfire of the Vanities, he walks into a room of glistening, whatever the fucking line is. What song did I use that line in? Dislocated. I have to look. This grinning. Oh, he says grinning, glistening, boiling teeth, and I love that. And I was like, grinning, glistening. I'm thinking Donald Trump, grinning, glistening, shiny teeth. I got no soul to destroy. Just grinning, glistening, shiny teeth. I think that's the line or whatever. But referring to those not just Trump, that ilk, the politicians and the persona it's completely an act. They're actors. They have zero interest in the Constitution. They have zero interest in doing what's right for their constituents, the United States of America. Democracy, zero interest, none. They're fucking. It's a great job. They get to fly around on a jet. They got whatever it is, a $250,000 expense account or $500,000 expense account, a staff, an office, and
for life. While none of us have health care that's adequate, and people can't make ends meet, and families can't feed their kids, and they have all this shit for life. It's crazy.
They're promoting. So they're promoting themselves. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything.
I actually heard a statistic last night. I hope it's true because I like to get as much unbiased media as I can get my hands on. But
of course,
I try. But it was like 70% of a congressman or a senator's time is fundraising for their own future campaigns, not legislation, not reading bills. Other people do that for them. Whoa, 70%, 70. I was like, oh, it hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, it's rough. That's really bad when you think about it. But let's go into the track.
Yeah.
We start with Holiday.
Yep, Holiday. The idea came from the last several holidays I've either spent with my East Coast family, my godson and his family, or my sister, or even like Thanksgiving with my brother and his family in Texas. And we're all kind of fascinated with these with Dateline, Forensic Files, Peter Thomas, that voice, or Law and Order marathons. And it's murder. There's so much murder and so many like evil human beings, pathetic human beings that would murder a spouse for $5,000 or an insurance policy or whatever. And it's like, it just occurred to me, the holidays consist of getting together, opening presents, say Christmas, and then watching shows about murder where someone's child or a wife or a daughter was murdered. So it's kind of that idea. And then there's also, every time you watch TV, I don't have regular network TV. I stream my Niner games, and I anything I watch is usually streamed or it's on YouTube or whatever. But when I'm with my family or with friends who have a gazillion channels, it's all this celebrity stuff, and I'm like, so I don't know. I've never seen one of these programs one time, but Survivor, The Voice, this Housewives of Jersey, The Bachelor. I've never seen, but I'll watch a commercial about it, and it's enough. I get it. And absolutely, I'm at the grocery store. There's magazines with these people on that there are, and I've never fucking heard of them in my life. Never heard of half the people that get Grammy nominations. I have no fucking idea who they are. Cardi B, and I heard Cardi B, and I was like, what? like this is a Grammy artist. Like, wow, like why am I practicing and studying and pushing the envelope? It's like, because that's the right way to live life. Her way is bullshit. But it's so I love this lowest common denominator thing, the mean chef guy, or the all this stuff. And so I was started thinking of all these rhymes, the eyes on dick one, obviously, but dumb bass was a quote from a friend of ours in a dressing room in San Diego years ago, and it said somebody had written dumbass on the wall, and he was drunk, and he's like, what's a dumb bass? like, oh my god. So it's stuck with us all these years. Anyway, that Stars Wars Butter Gloves. Butter Glove I got from a friend of mine 1.5 million years ago. There was a band in Richmond, Virginia called Butter Glove, and he played it for me. And I just love that Butter Glove, that notion, jack off, whatever. So and then that hook came. I got the soulless cliche idea and a loser on my teeth. Yeah, that's kind of that song. It's that sort of the kind of numbness of how we become numb to murder, and that's somebody's daughter, and then like there's this sort of when we put out "See You Dead," it was on Interscope. It was an obvious single, right? Like very catchy song, and the label said, you say slit your throat. I could miss you more right now, or I could slit your throat. We can't with that. I'm like, you're the label that puts out Eminem records, right? So in the hip hop world, it's okay for him to talk about having his baby mama in the trunk dead of the car. In the rock and roll world, what I'm some clean cut boy, and it's offensive that I said the fucking line, I want to, so I could miss you more right now, or I could slit your throat. That's infuriating. I'm still dealing with it. I still dealt with it on that song. I had to do it because the song did well apparently, and then they said we can't play this on UK radio, so you got to do words. So I just
edit. Yeah, that's shitty.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to hear that. Gun Fluff, I believe, is the next track.
Gun Fluff, yeah. Well, it's obvious that we're in a pretty fucked up place right now, and have been for quite some time. I know. I just read something after the main shooting that a guy said we've had guns since 1922. We didn't have it's societal, but when the assault weapons ban was was a law. I don't remember. I don't know the years. Biden was instrumental 30 or 40 years ago in making it happen. The murder rate in the basement, when that ban was lifted, it's increased every year. More children are killed by guns in the United States of America than by any other means. Car crashes, disease, accidents, and that's the stats I read, and I've looked at a bunch of different sources. I think I believe they say between the ages of 8 and 18 or something like that so these stats, we have a fucking problem. I grew up with guns. I'm from Oregon. I was born in Portland, Oregon, and we moved to Southern Oregon when I was 3 or 4, where our sister was born. Got a 12 gauge shotgun when I turned 12 from Grandpa. Hunted with Dad. Never ever considered turning a gun on another human being. AR-15 rifles weren't available to us, as far as I know, in the 70s when I was growing up and we were had guns. They're unnecessary. They're made for killing human beings. They can't identify any of these children except for by their sneakers, because their heads are blown apart. One bullet out of that gun will blow a human skull to like a fucking watermelon. We have a fucking problem, and I'm sick of hearing these people, with this the thought. I had in one song I had thoughts and prayers and promises, but I changed it to "You suffer fools, you suffocate." I forget which song it is. That Big Shot, maybe the bridge. Anyway, dislocated. I think it's dislocated. So that is obvious. Being facetious, we got more guns than we won. I love the song. I love playing it live. It's a bitch to sing because I have a rhythmic. I have a chorus going into, and it's the song development. Obviously, each chorus is different. The theme is the same, but a threats and terror, life disaster, blinding anger, no regrets, wrong place, wrong time, all this life. Next one starts with the same first line, but then the answer line is wrong place, wrong line, life, all this time, wrong time, all this life. When I got to the bridge, that shafted, laughed at mindless mindless, ruthless, epidemic, epistemic, your gun go suck, your gun. That part, singing that chorus into that bridge into the rhythmic hits section requires so much oxygen, and I thought I wasn't going to be able to pull it off live in the studio. You have the option of stopping and then starting the next section, but I found live, because you're standing up, you're singing, it's preceded by a bunch of songs, and you're in good voice, and it's been really working well live. I'm really loving playing it, and people have been responding. I just think, like the wrong place, the wrong time, wrong day, wrong side, like that notion that I have friends that are conservative. I have friends that voted for Trump, people I care for, and we're on the same fucking side. You know what I mean? Don't do what he does and pit families. I mean, he has separated families. I mean, like, he is the most toxic pile of shit that we've ever had in American politics, and this fascination with his celebrity or whatever. When I watched the Anderson Cooper interview with that Playboy bunny that he had an affair with, and she was like, he's so brilliant, and I'm like, he's not fucking brilliant. He's moron.
Not a reader, folks.
He's a fucking moron. So anyway,
it's wild. Something I have never been accused of being, an NYC tough guy, is the next track.
That's about my ex-wife.
Oh no.
She doesn't follow my career, so I feel okay that it won't hurt her feelings. But she's a tough guy, NYC. I met her in 1989, maybe something like that, when the band Helmet formed in 1989. I met her months later. Beautiful woman, smart, only child, raised by really intelligent parents, but she was a New York City kid, and I was a rube from Oregon, and there were so many times when the kind of condescending attitude would appear, and she always acted so tough, and like this song was inspired. She said this, we were going through a tough time, and she wasn't communicating with me, and there were no cell phones. I was literally outside her apartment window, looking cat on a hot tin roof, like, Stella, yelling up. And I walked from Avenue B or C and First Street, Second Street, down there where she lived, to St. John the Divine, which is on the Upper West Side. I don't know how many blocks that is.
125 blocks, seriously.
125 blocks, yeah. And
plus across town.
Yeah, so east to west, a lot of drug dealers and hookers, and I was so distraught. And I just thought she had this beautiful, wonderful, I'm happy for her, she's a beautiful, wonderful person, whatever, but had this cruel side that was so unnecessary. And it took me 25 years or whatever to write a song about it. Are you up? Are you down? I'm still losing. The retribution punishment thing, if I did something that she didn't agree with, or that she was really into punishing me somehow, like in a psychological way. She was a young woman. I mean, she was 21 when we met. I was 27, I think, something like that. And she's a much better human being now, and frankly, she's a much better human being for having spent 10 years with me than.
All right.
I learned a lot from her too, though.
I hear you.
Her family, I love family dearly. So
that's positive. The next track is Makeup.
Yeah, the good guys, bad guys, all life choices, gone without a trace is what I'm hoping for. There's obvious lines about Trump in here. Very specifically, politicians. I'm taking aim at a lot of politicians and public figures that use their celebrity or their status to further their own agendas, their own career, their own financial standing, and the words you never meant, but you'll say anything it takes. This person is a very smart, credible, wonderful person until they speak out against you. Then she's fucking crazy. Cassidy Hutchinson. She needs help. She's fucked up. It's like, right. It's her. Bill Barr, who's a total right-wing pile of shit, but he finally saw the light and was like, wait a minute. It was like, no, he's crazy. He's terrible. He was never any good at what he. Every single person, if they don't suck his dick, for the rest of their life, but one day they will all fucked over by him, as Giuliani, as Jenna Ellis. Is she the lawyer that just cried and did the thing finally?
She
Sidney
flipped.
Powell, these morons that drink his Kool-Aid and realize, that he's a fucking criminal. He makes John Gotti look like, Mr. Rogers. I mean, so I think there's some really funny lines in here. Bloated, feckless, orange, and dickless. I was very happy about that. Flaunt your lack of grace, which the guy is the least gracious human being we've ever had to contend with. I mean, George W. Bush is, making fun of you. You got, or George Bush and the Obama and George Bush. I guess the conversation they had when it was just like, God, can you believe this fucking guy? You're probably pretty fucked. But and the notion of competition and recognition and fabrication. Defamation is obvious. Defame anyone that doesn't stand in line, and these baseless accusations. So yeah, I just hope he's gone without a trace. I hope he goes to prison and we never hear from him again. It's been a really, really, really seriously low point in American history. This guy, he's done so much damage. He's just done so much fucking damage.
I know. I thought Reagan was the worst guy in my lifetime, but nope. It can get worse.
No, absolutely. Big Shot was a working title inspired by Billy Joel Big Shot, because that fucking chorus groove in that song. That song, by the way, is just such an amazing song in my opinion. I love Billy Joel.
Did you mention Korchmar before? I think he played with him, right? Danny Korchmar.
I don't know if Cooch produced River of Dreams. Danny.
Okay.
So he and he spoke highly of Billy Joel. There's some interesting footage. Danny's very intense. Korchmar. He's very, very intense. Really, I wanted him to produce Aftertaste. And Tom Whalley, the president of Interscope, and Jimmy Iovine, they were like, "What? No, he's like a soft rock guy." I'm like, "No, he's not. He is a fucking bluesy." He found me. Like he found me through my publisher. He's like, "This kid is fucking great. He's doing some new shit." And I remember reading his, James Taylor or Joni Mitchell or Jackson, back of album covers and seeing this name. And when my publisher's like, do you know who he is? I'm like, fuck yeah, I know who he is. And so we had lunch and we become friends. We've been friends ever since. But Big Shot was that I have to do Billy Joel, Big Shot drummer. That I'm really
Liberty
bad.
DeVito.
Is that who it is?
The ex-drummer for Billy Joel, yeah, Liberty DeVito. He was from Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels originally, and Billy Joel.
That fucking guy.
That dude was a beast.
Oh my God! I could not get that groove out of my head. And I write little post-it notes on my desk. Fire in the Hole, Steely Dan, that stomp groove piano solo section. Machine Gun, Jimi Hendrix, the Chuck a Thing rhythm guitar. I got a couple of ideas from that. That's where Gun Fluff was called Machine Gun. Then I called it, and Fluff, the FLUF is a tribute to my late friend Otis Bartholomew, who was a punk rock icon in San Diego, who was at the very fucking first Helmet show we ever played there. And at the last one, he was at every fucking show ever, and he had a band called Fluff, and so it was kind of the idea, Fluff being, substanceless, the Gun Fluff argument, the substanceless argument. So anyway, that was one of the posts I had Bloody Well right on here, the piano solo with the breakdown, whatever. I have little notes, so I had Big Shot. And when it was time to title the song, we were in the studio, and Jimmy Kaufman, my main co-producer, and I'm like, I need a title for the song. He's like, it's called Big Shot, dude. And I'm like, no, that's a Billy Joel song. He's like, fuck that, who cares? That's the song's Big Shot. And I'm like, all right, cool. So we just stuck with it. So maybe it's a little tip of the cap to Billy and whatever, but I love that song. And it's that recapture his anger seems kind of obvious. I stole that from William Butler Yeats, as I steal a lot from Yeats, from McCarthy, from Tom Wolfe, I stole from Marvin Gaye on this album. Mark Twain. There's a Mark Twain, meaning stealing, meaning here's a line. I love that line. It's so powerful. And when I was thumbing randomly through one of my Yeats books. I opened to a page and it said, I think it's sailing Byzantium, sailing to Byzantium is the poem, and it opened up with "This is no country for old men," and I was like what? And so my best friend up in Portland, Oregon, a retired FBI agent who we're literary buddies. We still exchange books and talk about books a lot and comedians. I said, dude, and so he looks it up and he go, yep, that's where he got it. And because I had no idea that's where McCarthy got the title for that fucking phenomenal book, which is also a phenomenal movie, by the way. But I read, I don't know, 15 McCarthy books, and they're, so seeing your heroes be inspired by your other heroes is pretty cool, and there's a Jimi Hendrix, a tip of the cap to Jimmy at the end of Bombastic, where because if 6 was 9, because that we'll get to that song, but anyway,
we can get to it now.
yeah,
it's the next one. I feel like Big Shot, Bombastic, and Reprise is like the backbone, the spine of this whole record, just to me, in my listening experience personally as a fan.
The Bombastic is one of my favorite songs that I've ever written, and my Danny, my guitarist, and Dave were both, when I saw them, separately, they were just like, fucking asshole, because that song is so hard, and it's, I've got chords on there that no one on planet Earth has ever thought to play before, but like that's a C9, right? Pretty straight ahead. But when I move the 2 bass notes up, the root and the fifth up a half step, you get that. And then down, just gorgeous, right? And I'm singing basically a pentatonic melody. Why do you care where I come from? So it's this pretty melody, pentatonic kind of melody against these jacked up chords. And I just had this chord, and I'm like, God, that's really nice. It's a whole other topic of conversation, and something that I addressed yesterday in an interview, talking about the helmet chord voicings, which are unique to rock music, or music for that. Exactly, like it was just because I'm a jazz nerd and I'm always working on chord melody, and I'm always trying to find cool chord voicings, like, because you have to find a chord that has the melody. There's your major 7 chord. So I had to come up with the unique voicing to play Giant Steps from Coltrane, and so that has all translated into my kind of helmet chord voicing and that vocabulary, and so anyway, this song, I have a trans godson in Oklahoma, in Tulsa. Got to see him on this last trip. Very emotional. Everything the kid in Oklahoma go through at the age of 12, 13, dang it, I lose track. They grow like, and I sent this to him, and he was very excited and said, yeah. So I said, you cool with this? If I, if I hear another fucking conservative politician, whether it's Marjorie Taylor Greene or Carrie Lake, or to my knowledge, are not fucking scientists. They're not, they don't know anything about, gene, like the XY chromosome. And what I've read is that we're all born Y chromosome, and after a couple of weeks, then it either splits, and it doesn't necessarily go just male or female. Ben Shapiro, well, it's very simple, because there's male and female. You're not a fucking scientist. And if you think in 2023, we know everything there is about gene, what's not technology, gene, science, you're an idiot. So 100 years ago, we didn't know what, you're not qualified to speak on this. So shut the fuck up. I know in my heart, and I've tried to educate myself that there is a trans gene. That people are born this way. My brother, I shared a room with my brother my entire childhood until I moved out to go to college. He's gay, I'm straight, right? We had trundle beds, then it was a bunk bed, then it was twin beds. We'd always like, well, how should the room be this month? I had my Playboys, my weed under the dresser, and he never touched them, and we've joked about it later. He would say, because I didn't know he was gay. I was, we're just growing up. He was my roommate, and he joked about it later. And he's like, And I said, God, I always wonder why you never like used Miss May or whatever. He's like, no, I was looking for your football cards, And I'm like, it's like, he's born that way. That's how you're born, man. It's like, shut the fuck up. Stop telling people who they should be or who they should love. This song is really important to me. Unfortunately, it's so difficult to play and sing. It's kind of a work in progress. Maybe by March, when we do the U.S. tour, we'll have it down. The whole band said this. They were like, "Damn, it's hard." Anyway, it's nobody's business, right? Who I love or why.
What a weird hill everybody wants to die on. It's so stupid. And just let people live and be happy. Like, of all the
live
things.
And let live. Live and let live.
Exactly. Reprise is next. I know I want to help you get through these.
Yes, yeah. Well, if the mountains fell in the sea, let it be. It ain't me. That's the tag to Bombastic. If the mountains fell, that's straight out of If 6 Was 9. I did that here. I did some vocal treatments and did the whole thing here in my little home studio. And
nice.
And then what makes you what you are? That's so that's that. That was just a cool idea I had. I knew I wanted to do a reprise of the Makeup groove because it was such a cool groove, that 5/4 groove. So when I'm doing a piece like that, I tend to do pretty much like 95% of it here just on my own. And I'd say, Kyle, play this for me. And then we did 2 tempos, I think 117 and one, I can't remember the other tempo. I said, I want this groove at 2 tempos. And I said, I'll play the riff and you just play a groove. And then I grab what I need and go on kind of from there. So Dislocated. I love, for some reason, this rhyme got stuck in my head. Abandoned famine, slam and DJ. We make 1/1000th of what a DJ makes. And I don't know, and I'm not going to disparage or speak ill of anyone's talent. I couldn't DJ because frankly, I have no interest in it. I want to play music. I play it for myself. I don't. My bandmates play music in the dressing room before, after the show, on the bus, whatever. I'm very private with my music listening. I want to be on headphones. I've always been like this. Stanier would play Far Side, or Square Pusher, and Henry Bogdan would play Hank Williams or Salhu PE or whatever, and I just was like, I don't need to play my music with it for anyone else. It's for me, So I'm listening to Ray Vaughan Williams and Coltrane and Monk and Jim Hall and whatever, and I don't want to subject people to that because I don't give a shit if they like it or not. I go through this with my girlfriend. We were driving home from the comedy show last night, the SNL thing. She's like, she had Pearl Jam as her favorite band. She's like, are you cringing? And I'm like, no, I'm not cringing. No, it's fine. Just do your thing, man. It's all good. And they're like, I think from what I read, they're good guys and they do their thing.
Great guitar players. Stone and Mike are great. By the way, really quick, did you see the Monk in France documentary of the lost footage they found?
No, I have not seen
that. It's pretty interesting. I'll just leave it at that. And you can, they treated him pretty terribly, and he was very funny about it. Like he punked them back, even though they were trying to punk him. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I better jump here. It's 1:30. I have a 2:00 session on this movie.
All right.
Hey, Paige Hamilton here, and I am on a ship heading to Finland, so I hope the reception works, but kind of forgotten where we were at, so I'll go backwards on the album. I think we have the last 2 songs or 3 songs or something, is the second movement from the amazing masterpiece I Love Supreme. It's called Resolution. I've wanted to play it for 1.5 million years, so it was just a tip of the cap. We did a short version where I did an improv one time through the form, and then with a clean sound, just lay down the chord changes. It's modal. It's not standard jazz chord changes, but a modal kind of piece. So the changes are open for interpretation. But then I improvised over those changes with a clean kind of guitar sound on my gold Strat that I love, ESP Strat. Played the head on the same guitar with a distorted sound, kind of trying to emulate a saxophone. And Coltrane is one of my all-time heroes. If you were to step foot in my house, the first thing you would see is a poster of John Coltrane. You step in my studio, the first thing you see is a poster of John Coltrane and Sonny Rollins and Clifford Brown, and another poster of John Coltrane and a photo of John Coltrane and a photo of Elvin Jones, his drummer. So yes, one of my great heroes. That's that. I don't think we discussed Tell Me Again. I'm not sure. I have a student, 14-year-old student, Santiago, really talented kid. He wanted to learn Led Zeppelin Friends off Led Zepp 3, their kind of album with a lot of acoustic stuff. So I got the tuning with CAC GCE. It's a C6 chord. Guitar was still tuned that way. I was sitting on the stand in my living room or studio, I can't remember. Picked it up and kind of came up with that tension idea, resolving up to the tonic, and melody came out. And then I kind of horsed around with some chords, because none of the chords work when you're playing an open tuning, and wrote the song. It's about a friend, a very dear friend, who let me down, and I think let other people down in his family. And it's kind of painful, honestly. Yeah, if I had to write the song, and so I did. Can't think of anything else to say about it. The song Powder Puff was that concept, that word came from a Wire song. I think it's Mercy, the song we covered. I can't remember. I don't have access to lyrics to the internet right now. We're on this boat in the Baltic. It's essentially about the sort of posturing and misinformation of the right-wing fascist branch of our government, or I forget what they call themselves, the Freedom Caucus or some bullshit. And just the notion that they can spew all this bullshit, nonsense, lie, and then act super tough, and like they, like the Donald Trump, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Jim Jordan. They're just a bunch of fucking douchebags. So it's kind of just basically about that. The song was really fun to record. It was one of those things where the verse lyrics didn't come together right away. So I kind of pulled those together. I had them, but I had like 20 versions, as I often do, and pulled it together in the studio, where I finally kind of got the structure I wanted. I sang it one day, came back the next day or a day later or something, because I hated what I had, and redid it. I'm so glad I did. The backing vocal, the choir, me, is I did in my home studio. I just did that arrangement with some guitar parts and stuff, as I did quite a few things on the album that way, backing vocals. Gonna learn it soon for live. That's that song. The string quartet, yeah. I wrote a sketch, sent it to a guy that had helped me orchestrate my orchestra piece that I wrote for the 150th anniversary of the Christian Brothers High School in Memphis, Tennessee. And I didn't like what he did. So I gave him some notes, and he sent me a rewrite 2 hours later, and I didn't like that, so I decided to do it myself. The leader of the string quartet did the parts on Sibelius, but he used my arrangement, and that's that. My first ever string quartet. Yeah, I like it. I had a really fun time working on it, and I don't know if we're ever going to play it live, but there you go. All right, I think that's the last song.
Paige Hamilton, thank you for hanging out with Ghost Cult. We really appreciate you. Congrats on Left.